Strangely strange but oddly normal.
Hi, my name's John Downs and welcome to the June edition of On the Track. Sitting here outside Euston Station, indulging in the cryptozoological pursuit of coffee and donuts.
We were in London because Richard and I had been invited to give a lecture at the Grant Museum of Natural History. During the lecture, I was lucky enough to be able to drop a small herpetological bombshell.
As I'm sure many of you are aware, under recent legislation, it is now illegal to keep practically any European species of reptile or amphibian. So I wasn't particularly surprised when I was at the British Tarantula Society show in Birmingham on Sunday. And a bloke I knew vaguely came up to me and said, "Here, you're interested in British amphibians, mate?" Might be. Here, pop a load of this.
And he gave us a plastic ice cream box and told us to take it outside where nobody could see. We were completely blown away by what we saw. This is only the second one I've even heard of, and it's certainly the first one I've ever seen. I know it's hiding, but this is herpetological history in a way. It's a leucistic smooth newt, the common newt of Britain, but a colour variant I've never seen. Luckily, this one, isn't she gorgeous? It is a female, and it's very much hoped that she's going to be able to be bred from. This one was rescued and taken to an animal rescue centre run by an acquaintance of mine. The people who brought her in actually thought she was a fire salamander or something more exotic. And I didn't realise, actually, the gold mine they got here. I have no idea how much this would cost on the black market, and I have no intention of trying to find out. But it is absolutely fantastic. Also at the BTS show, I grabbed my old friend Graham Smith, who really does not like being on camera.
Brand new species to science, coming in from the Congo. It's called Rhombodorella. Absolutely stunning creature.
When was it discovered?
I think originally discovered in 2002, but this is the first time into culture anywhere. I believe it was discovered by Erman in 2002, and she's absolutely gorgeous. One of the prettiest greens.
Is she one you bred yourself? Or
Yes, no, this is second generation, and today we brought some third generation along to show people. And the brown colour form is pink and blue.
Well, she's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, magnificent, elegant female.
Graham, I know you hate being on camera, but you do realise you're going to be on pretty well every month from now.
Yeah, okay, under duress, but okay.
We have some exciting news this month about the latest CFZ expedition. Okay, Richard, tell us, what are you doing in Russia?
We're travelling to the Caucasus Mountains in Kabardino-Balkaria in the southwest of Russia with the biologist Grigory Panchenko. We're in search of the almasti, a hominid, a creature probably more closely related to human beings even than the pygmy chimpanzee. It's of the genus Homo rather than a pongid. It's not an ape, it's a man, but a very primitive one. More primitive even than the Neanderthal. It's big, it's powerfully built, it's hairy, it has only rudimentary tool use, it doesn't use fire. But it's still a very primitive form of man. Grigory Panchenko has been studying this creature for 14 years and has seen it on 4 separate occasions, once as close as 10 feet away. He believes that in the Kabardino-Balkaria area, that rhymes, the Carbonino-Balcaria area. The creature is on the increase. There have been sightings of family groups of them. He thinks the population is burgeoning. In the same area there are also reports of immensely big snakes, which may be giant colobarids, some 10 metres or 33 feet long, the size of a very big python. We're travelling there with Chris Clark, Dave Archer and Gregory himself. So, fingers crossed.
We first met Gregory last summer when he was our special guest at the 2007 Weird Weekend. We were very impressed both by him personally and by the quality of his research, and we decided that we wanted to work with him as soon as possible. So, this summer when the opportunity arose, we leapt at it, and we have high hopes for this, the 6th annual expedition. The Corsica's mountain range is enormous and spans Europe and Asia. Carbonino-Balcaria is one of the most remote parts of this, and it has a long and checkered history. During the Russian Civil War, the region became part of the anti-communist Southeastern League, and then joined the Mountain People's Autonomous Republic in 1921. Then it was invaded by Stalin. In 1936 it was elevated in status and named the Kabardino-Balkar Autonomous Soviet Socialist Republic. However, in 1944 Stalin accused the Balkars of collaborating with the Nazis in Germany and deported the entire population. The name was deleted from the territory, and it was only brought back when the Balkars were allowed to return in 1957. Kabardino-Balkaria became a full republic in 1991, and in 1992 became one of the constituent republics of the Russian Federation. However, the republic's economy was very hard hit by the fall of the Soviet Union and the outbreak of war in neighbouring Georgia and nearby Chechnya. The instability produced by the conflicts led to a collapse in tourism in the region and produced an unemployment level that was estimated to be as high as 90%. The republic's mainly Muslim population has become increasingly radicalized by the region's instability, and in October 2005, Kabardino-Balkaria's capital, Nalchik, was the site of fighting after an attack on the city by Chechen militants. Dr. Umarov, the underground president of the Chechen Republic of Ichkeria and the self-proclaimed emir of the northern Corsicas, was injured in the fighting and is seen as a folk hero by many of the Balkar people. This is potentially the most dangerous place that the CFZ has been yet, because although when we were in Indonesia there were rumours that the area where we were was used as an Al-Qaeda training camp, and when Graham and I were in Mexico in 1998 we were there in the middle of separatist guerrilla fighting, this is the first time we've ever been in a bona fide war zone. We have high hopes for this expedition, especially considering the fact that a couple of years ago, one of the great stories of hominid survival in the region came to a dead end. In the mid-19th century, a wild woman who was later named Zana was captured by villagers in a part of Georgia. She was kept captive for many years and was often plied with alcohol and impregnated by horny local villagers. This is Zhuit, one of her sons, and this is his skull. Because of Zana's apparently very primitive appearance, people have theorized that she was a surviving Neanderthal. However, DNA testing done on hers and Quit's skulls proved that she was in fact a modern human, which bears out a theory that Richard and I published in 1999, suggesting that there was a remnant population of Mesolithic era hunter-gatherer nomads in the Corsicas. However, the Almas seems to be something much more primitive.
It doesn't have fire, but it uses tools. People say it can interbreed with human beings. We're going into the mountains to look for this creature, which may well be of the genus Homo, close relation to us, Homo sapiens, a descendant of Homo erectus like we are, like the Neanderthals were, and like the Homo floresiensis was. There's no reason why there shouldn't be another descendant of Homo erectus. And this creature, which the Russians call the Almasty, might well be it.
But nearer to home we have another mystery to solve. I have been interested in butterflies and moths probably for as long as I've been interested in cryptozoology. And back when I was a youngster I used to have quite a fine collection of the things. These days, of course, I realise that collecting butterflies and moths, unless for particularly scientific projects, cannot really be seen as ethical. However, I have a moth trap, and regularly we set it up in the garden just to see what species are around, to take photographs of them and then let them go again. Between 1971 and 1981, while I grew up in the village, I think I probably studied the insect life of the area in more depth than anybody else has ever done so. And one of the things that always disappointed me as a child was that there were no hawk moths in the village. Indeed, in 10 years, I only ever caught one, a poplar hawk moth, rather battered, that had been attracted by the light outside the village shop. On another occasion, in 1974, I found a few caterpillars of the large elephant hawk moth, but that was all. Last summer in the garden, we had no less than 4 species. The large elephant hawk moth, the poplar hawk moth, the lime hawk moth, and this, the hummingbird hawk moth, which was once seen as a rare visitor to these shores. Its native haunts are the Mediterranean, and although it's quite well known as a migrant, and it does sometimes turn up in British countryside, last year seemed to be a bumpy year for it. The hummingbird hawk moth isn't, however, the only species of migrant hawk moth which occasionally turns up in Britain. You have the oleander hawk moth, the spurge hawk moth, the striped hawk moth, and the silver-striped hawk moth, and even much rarer species like this, the willowherb hawk moth, which is only known on the British list from 2 specimens. But something strange seems to be happening to the butterfly and moth population of the village. Some species which were once common, like this, the small tortoiseshell, have now vanished, whereas others that I never saw when I was a child, like this, the clouded yellow, and most excitingly this, Coleus hyali, the pale clouded yellow, an extremely rare migrant from mainland Europe, were all recorded in the village last year. Why? What happened to all the common moths from my childhood, and why do they seem to have been replaced by such rarities? This is the beginning of a brand new project for the CFZ, because I want to know the answer. These are striped mice from sub-Saharan Africa, and we've just bred our second litter of the year. But the babies are just about to be rehomed. We're swapping 4 of them for 2 pairs of another exotic mouse species, the Arabian spiny mouse. Both here and at the zoo, we're carrying out breeding projects and increasing the number of species that we keep. It is important that we learn to keep relatively common species like this, so that we can understand, when we get hold of them, how to keep the rare ones, so eventually we can reintroduce them into the wild. At the CFZ headquarters in rural North Devon, plans for the museum are continuing apace.
We've just come back from Kingsbridge in South Devon with a very generous donation to the museum. Our old friend Noella Mackenzie, probably the oldest member of the CFZ, has donated her entire library on dragons, folklore and other esoteric subjects to the CFZ. She's over 86 years old now and going blind, so she can't read the books anymore, so very kindly she's donated them to us.
As well as the books, Noella donated the shelving to store them on. Here's one of the shelving units, or one of the actual shelves, and it's held together with some really hefty coach screws, so it'll carry a heck of a lot of stuff. Just stack a few, start carrying them.
Noella had been collecting these books for over 50 years, and we feel greatly honoured that she has entrusted her library to us. It is a sizable collection, and carrying them up the garden path, quite literally, took a long time. We started work on the CFZ Museum soon after my father died in February 2006, but it wasn't until I finally owned the house for myself in March of 2007 that we could start work proper. It's been a long, hard slog. We last showed you the CFZ Museum progress a couple of months ago, and I think you'll agree it's changed a lot since then.
Last saw this, it was a building site. Now it's an aviary with birds in it.
Here we have the nucleus of a collection of Southeast Asian upland birds, which we are displaying together with plants typical of the region. In a year's time, when the bamboo stands have grown, it's going to look quite magnificent. We shall be exhibiting the birds alongside full-sized models of some of the cryptids which have been reported from the region. But the museum building itself has progressed as well.
Yes, well this was an old chicken shed. As you can see now, it's a nicely painted museum. And even the windows have been cleaned.
It's hardly recognisable from what it was a few months ago. The roof has been fixed. The walls have nearly all been lined with plasterboard. There are 2 neat cubicles, one for a workshop for Graham and the other for our archive. And even some of the ceiling has been finished. Within a week or so, 2 years of very hard work will be completed. And we can stop being builders and get on with being a research organisation. But that's another story. Now I think it's time for our monthly roundup of new and rediscovered species. A team of Filipino and American scientists have rediscovered a highly distinctive mammal, the greater dwarf cloud rat, Garpomis melanurus, that was last seen 112 years ago. Furthermore, it has never before been seen in its natural habitat and was thought by some to be extinct. This beautiful little animal was seen by biologists only once previously by a British researcher in 1896 who was given several specimens by local people, so he knew almost nothing about the ecology of the species. A West Virginia University professor has discovered a new species of fish in the lower Elk River near Charleston. Stuart Welch, assistant professor in the Wildlife and Fisheries Resources Program in the Davis College of Agriculture, named the new species Crystalleria concota, or diamond darter. A rare South American river dolphin has been officially classified as a new species. The Bolivian river dolphin has been acknowledged as a separate species to the more widely known Amazon river dolphin. The formal announcement was made at a conservation workshop in Santa Cruz de la Sierra in Bolivia. The Bolivian dolphin, Inia boliviensis, was immediately adopted by the Bolivian government as a symbol of the country's conservation efforts. The species is smaller and a lighter grey in colour than the other species and has more teeth. Indian scientists have discovered a huge 250mm long lizard, which is said to be the largest member of the gecko family, in the Ghats of Puna's Junar Taluka region. According to scientist Varad Giri, the lizard was first photographed 2 years ago, but has only just been identified. This is probably the most famous turtle in the world. It lives in Hoan Kiam Lake in the middle of Hanoi in Vietnam, and the local people have imbued it with semi-supernatural powers. It is a member of the species Swinhoe soft-shelled turtle, Raphatus swinhoei, and until now it was thought that it was the only one left in the wild. There are 2 in zoos in China, but none others have been known. The CFZ have been saying for some years that other ones would turn up, and now an expedition sponsored by Cleveland Metro Park Zoo has announced the discovery of yet another specimen. After a 3-year hunt, the turtle was found in a lake just west of Hanoi. This is an incredibly important discovery because the Swinhoe turtle is one of the most critically endangered in the world, said Doug Hendry, the Vietnam-based coordinator of Cleveland Metro Park Zoo's Asian Turtle Program. This species has legendary status amongst the people of Vietnam, so this is finally perhaps an opportunity for the legend to live on. And finally, a story which was sent to us today by our old friend Dave Curtis, better known to the readers of my books as Geordie Dave. It may not be a new species, but it's certainly a bloody great fish. It's a giant halibut caught in the Arctic waters off Norway. It weighed 30 stone and measured 8 foot 1 inch in length and 6 foot 4 inches round the middle. Halibut typically reach maturity at 10 years and average 3 foot 4 inches in length. This one was certainly a whopper.
Guys, that's about it for this issue. I want to thank Jack Ashby and all the guys at the Grand Museum of Natural History. Thank you very much for everything you've done for us. I want to thank Karina, who once again has been my very able camerawoman, as well as being my lovely wife. And I want to thank Richard Freeman for letting me do take after take after take of the stuff he's doing about Russia. So, until next time, I'm having a donut. Good seeing you.
la la la